In today's project, I'm going to guide you through the process of how to take your 3D prints from this level and get them professionally painted up with some really nice, amazing details such as this right here. All of that in today's video. So let's get started. All right, so the first step on this 1/3 scale Joker head sculpt is going to be to get him primed. For that, I'm going to start off with my Flesh Tone Stynylrez primer. So the way I'm thinking on this one is, the reason I'm not using like a gray primer is I think I might make the face look more like he's wearing the white makeup, to where the flesh tone skin is showing through, like very subtly, and in certain areas. I'm not sure yet. I'm going to play around with the colors, but either way, I want to keep the undertones very warm. So we're just going to base them with the flesh tone for now, and then play around with the colors, whether I decide to make it look more like he's wearing makeup, or just make it look like he's just full on all white, like he fell into an acid bath. We're not sure yet, but we're going to play around with the colors, like I said. So I'm going to get him primed with the Stynylrez primer, and we'll go from there. All right, so that's going to be the first coat. We're going to let that dry and then come back and hit him with the second coat. All right, and here's how Joker is looking after primer. The next step from here is to start painting him. So from this point, we'll start working on the white areas of his face and getting that all base coated. All right, so getting started with Joker's face, it's time to start spraying the white to get it base coated. And I'm going to go in with a chalkish looking white. I have Vallejo's Game Color. This is a dead white. So we'll go in with that, start base coating the face. As far as like shading goes, it's going to be with different gray tones. Also, as mentioned, looking at the render, he has like these pinkish, skin color, skin tones, most noticeable around the eyes. So I'll come back with that, try to recreate that effect. This way the face isn't just all white. Add a little bit more depth to it with those pinkish hues. But yeah, it's going to be, I have a feeling it's going to be a lot of back and forth as far as layering the paint. So from here on out, I'm just going to get started spraying and start layering the different effects between the white, those gray tones, and as well as the pink skin tones throughout the face. And then we can move on to other areas like the hair and teeth and eyes and all that other fun stuff. But yeah, for now, going to start spraying this Vallejo dead white and get the face base coated and started. All right, so here's how he's looking after doing a round of shading and then covering the shadows back over with the base color, which was the white. So just give him a little bit more depth to the sculpt. From here, I'm going to go in and start adding back some of those skin tones and flesh colors in the renders. Some of it's a little bit more pinkish than others, so I'm going to be doing a combination of Natural Flesh by Vallejo as well as some Warlord Purple. Back and forth. Sometimes I might just be using this by itself, other times might be using this by itself, and other times I'm going to do a little bit mixture of both just to tie it all in together. So that's up next. All right, so here's how he's looking off camera. As mentioned, I went around and finally detailed him. There was a lot of back and forth with different layering of doing the whites, doing the shading, doing the pinks, doing the skin tones. I was trying to match the renders, and it was looking a little bit too pinkish for my liking, so I kind of went with more of a purplish tone. It kind of stuck more to like the magenta color here, or it's more like actually like a fuchsia. Made him look a little bit more intimidating, and it's actually not showing up on camera too well. Maybe it is right there. I'll try to play around with the lights in a second, but yeah, that light pink just wasn't looking very Jokerish to me. There's two different versions of the Joker. You have the Joker that puts on the white makeup, like in the movies, and then you have the Joker who fell in the acid and burnt his skin. So originally I thought I was going to go for more of like the makeup look, to where you could see more of like the light brown skin tones underneath, and I kind of changed my mind as I was painting it. It was a lot of back and forth, and I kept changing it because I wasn't happy with the way it looks. But I am happy with how he looks right now. He looks absolutely crazy. A lot of the references I looked at, Joker has very dark circles under his eyes. He has very heavy shading, mostly black. So in the renders, they were using more of like a pinkish color. So I kind of went for an in-between. Instead of doing just pink, or instead of doing just black, did a little bit of both, which gave me more of like a purplish color. It's definitely stronger on camera than it is in person, but I think it's going to work well. I want to get the hair blocked in with the green, start doing the lips, and then see how he looks. So from here, I'm going to clear coat him just to seal everything in and protect it. And then at the end, if I need to make adjustments, I can make adjustments, but I think he looks pretty crazy the way he is now. Again, I changed it a few times because I don't know, I kept trying to do what the renders looked like, or do like his skin tones were showing underneath, and I don't know, he didn't look as crazy to me as he does this way. So I really like the way this looks, and I kind of wanted to do my own take, to where it's kind of like the way I'm looking at it is he did fall into the acid, but instead of the acid burning off all of his skin, it kind of only burned off some of the skin. So in certain areas, the purplish hue could be kind of like the tissue under your skin. So like the acid destroyed his skin, and you can see the tissue underneath in certain areas. But in certain areas, you do still have the light flesh brownish color, to where maybe the acid didn't get to those areas. So I don't know, first time doing a Joker portrait, so I'm playing around with the colors and kind of wanted to do my own thing on this one instead of sticking to the renders. And yeah, he's not even done, but just looking at the shading, I think he looks really creepy, especially from that angle right there. He looks absolutely crazy. So pretty happy with the way he's looking so far. Let me change the lighting, because my booth definitely messes with the lighting in here. We're under a cool light right now, so this would be more of like a warmish light in the 3000 range of temperature. So I'll definitely throw up pictures at the end, because the way it's looking on camera right now is definitely not the way it looks in person. He looks a lot better in person, but yeah, I think it looks pretty cool so far. So from here, as mentioned, I'm going to get him clear coated and start moving on to the other areas. Start doing the eyes, the eyebrows, and the hair. And yeah, excited to see him fully come together and the final product. But yeah, he's looking really creepy so far, and definitely loving the way he looks. All right, on to the next step. All right, so it's the next day. The face had time to dry. It was clear coated just to lock everything in. Still playing around with the colors, but for the time being, I want to start base coating the hair This way I can get a better overall idea of how he's going to look and make any adjustments if I need to make any adjustments at the end. So I got my paint rack out because I have tons of different shades of green to work with. But what I'm thinking with, the same way I do all hair, is I do a darker shade as the base coat, and then I come back with a lighter version of that color to do some dry brushing to catch all of the hair strands on the sculpt. So for a darker green, I think I'm going to go with, I actually have a color, it's called dark green. Either that, or I have a heavy black green. So I think one of those two. And then to come back and do the highlights and everything like that, I have this green here. These are all by Vallejo. I have it's called a Scorpy green. And I think that's going to be like an overall really nice color for him. So the majority of the hair will be this color, but everything like within the crevices will be the darker green. Most likely going to use, I think, probably just the same color, same as it's called. It's called dark green, also by Vallejo. The same thing. This is also the game color. It's just the newer bottles of the game color. All right, so we're going to start blocking in his hair, and then I'll come back and do the dry brushing with the brighter green. All right, and already the color's looking really good. It's just the first coat. I gotta let this dry, come back with the second coat, and go in and finally detail around the hairline and get into all the little nooks and crevices off camera, and I'll be right back. All right, and here's a look at the hair after dry brushing it with that brighter Scorpy green. looking good. It's got a nice contrast to it. As I'm working, anything can always be changed until I get to the final result. I kind of like to get towards the end before I make any decisions if I want to change anything. But at the moment, everything's fine the way it is, but I might go back and touch up the hair a little bit at the end. But basically I want to move forward to the eyes and the mouth and just get that done, just to get an overall idea how everything is looking before I make any further changes. So for the eyes, as usual, I'm going in with some eye decals. These are by Archer, and I'm going to go in with the green, give them some green eyes. I'm not sure if these are going to be intense enough for Joker. We'll see how they go on. I might have to do what I usually do, is I put the decals on the actual portrait, and then sometimes I'll paint over the decal to add some extra color, and sometimes I'll go back and add like a little highlight dot and darken up the pupils if I'm not happy with the results of the decal. But the decal just gives me a rough idea of how I want the eyes to look and where I want them to be. It's just a little, I guess, a way of cheating, most would say, for painting. I just don't like painting eyes. But anyway, for the eye decals, I'm going to get these cut out similar to what I did there. If you've been watching my series of videos on these portraits, it's the same steps. Going to get them cut out into the shape of the eyeball. And then if there is any leftover excess film from the decal, once the decal is dry, I can come back with my X-Acto knife and trim out any excess once it's dried up. So these are water decals, but because you want them, they're going over an eyeball which has a curve. If you don't have any eye decal solution, you could use a little bit of distilled vinegar. So I'm going to mix a little drop of distilled vinegar into my water solution, soak the decal for about 20 seconds, and then apply it. Or if you have eye decal solution, you can use that. It just helps the decal become a little bit more pliable and bendable. This way it wraps around the eyeball. So let me get that set up and I'll show you how it looks. All right, so when setting up, the most important thing to remember when cutting decals or even masking tape, always start off with a fresh new blade, even if you used it once. Makes a huge difference. This way the blade does all the work and you're not pulling on the actual vinyl. Or same with masking. If you're ever doing masking, make sure you're starting off with a brand new blade. So got a brand new blade all set to go. Get this tightened up. Okay, so brand new blade, so we can cut right through the vinyl. Still need to cut that out. In the meantime, I'm going to mix up my little solution of vinegar. So as mentioned, just some distilled water. And then you're going to have to use some distilled vinegar if you don't have any eye decal solution. Just pour a little bit into the cup. You only need a drop or two. Okay, so that's going to go into my cup. It's probably a little too much. Let me pour some of that out. So a few drops of vinegar. And then I'm going to mix in regular distilled water. Okay, that's going to be our solution for soaking the decal. Now I got to get the decal cut out. So again, we're going to go in with the two green decals down there by Archer. So let me get those cut out and I'll show you what it looks like. All right, so I got the eye decal cut off. Basically what I like to do is leave a little bit more room on the outside of the eye that's facing the ear. So this would be the left eye. So on this side, I got a little bit more, you can see, of the white paper. That's just so I can grab onto the decal and move it around when I'm transferring it onto the portrait. But as mentioned, if you have a little bit of excess, you can cut anything off towards the end once everything is dry. So just a little tip, leave a little bit of excess. You don't want to cut it just to the shape of the eyeball. You want to have a little bit of material on the end. This way you can grab onto it. So basically what I'm going to do is, once this is soaked in the solution for about 20 seconds, I'm going to hover it right next to his eye and then transfer it over with a paintbrush. And then use the paintbrush to push it into place. And as long as you keep it wet, for the most part, you have plenty of time to, maneuver and position the decal into place. So again, got my solution down here off to the side. I'm just going to drop the eyeball in there. So as you can see, it's soaking in there. Let it soak for 20 seconds, and then we can transfer it over onto his portrait. All right, so it's been about 20 seconds. You'll notice the transfer is ready once it starts to fall off the backing paper of the decal. One trick I usually do is I usually gloss the eyeball before I put the decal on. It helps slide around a little bit easier. Forgot to do that on this step, but it's not totally necessary. But another thing you want to make sure you do is at least wet the eye underneath before putting on the decal. This way it slides around a little bit easier. So also make sure you clear coat it first. So he's been clear coated. We have a little bit of solution on top of the eyeball, and now we're going to transfer the decal onto the actual portrait. All right, so again, get the decal onto your X-Acto blade, and then what I like to do is just hover it right under the eyeball and then come in with a paintbrush and just slide it into place over the eyeball. All right, the first decal is in place. I'm going to move on to the right side. This way I can get both of them in place and then align them correctly. This way he's staring at the correct spot. Okay, so while the decals are drying, I usually let them dry for a couple of hours before messing with them, trying to cut off any excess. I'm going to start working on the gums and the teeth. Start with the gums. For the gums, I usually do like a mixture of either like a purplish red or an orangey red, depending on the model. But for him, I'm going to start off with the Warlord purple. And then most likely come back with some red washes over that just to tint it. So I have scarlet, or I might just use my transparent red. And then I also have a heavy sal orange that I could come in with if I want to add a little bit more orange to the gum area. So those are the three colors I'm working with for the gums. It'll be a lot of different layers of glazes until I get them the way I want them to look. As far as the teeth go, I think I'm going to give him like the usual Joker teeth that are kind of like yellow and kind of rotted looking. Not too crazy, but I definitely don't want to keep them pearly white. I want to give them kind of like a gross looking face. But yeah, we're going to start off with the gums and then work our way over to the teeth, and then finally the red lips that give them that jokerish smile. All right, so I got a few glazes on the gums at the moment, just to block in the color, again with the salmon orange, kind of like a coral color, along with the warlord purple, back and forth, doing some glazes. When I do my glazes, I use this. It's a golden high flow medium, kind of makes the acrylic paint a little bit more transparent, so you can put it on in layers. I'm going to start blocking in the teeth, give them a little bit of like that rotted teeth look. For that, I'm going in with some bone color by Vallejo, as well as some filthy brown, just to tint it a little bit yellow. And then around the teeth, like where it would be more rotted, a charred brown. So again, it's going to be a back and forth process with different glazes, using that high flow medium by Golden, just to go around and layer it back and forth until we get the desired effect. All right, so it's the next day, and he went through a little bit of a off-camera transformation. I had an issue with the mouth. I'll throw up a picture on the screen. The way the teeth were looking, they were looking a little bit too yellowish, too gold, a little bit too rotten to match the sculpt. I felt like it was just a little too disgusting looking. I kind of want to stay to the render where it looks a little bit more cleaner, but not too clean. I don't want his teeth to be, pearl white. So just real quick off camera, I went around the eyes again and shaded under the eyelids there with like a dark purplish black, just to darken that up. Let's see what else. Also off camera, I airbrushed the hair with the Scorpio green, the color I was dry brushing for the highlights. I believe that's what it was. Let's see. Yeah, it was a Scorpio green. So this was the color that I was using for the highlights, just to tie everything in a little bit better and make it look a little bit more smoother. I went around and just airbrushed over the entire hair. So you still have that darker contrast, but the dry brushing was looking a little harsh, so I wanted to lighten that up a little bit. So that was done off camera. The hair, as well as the eyebrows, did a little bit on the eyebrows. But yeah, the major transformation was definitely the mouth. Also on the eyes, I went in and added a little bit of blood vessels onto the pupil. The eyeball, I should say. The eyeballs still need to get glossed. And I also added a little bit of pink on the eyelid, if you could see that, right on the bottom, the bottom eyelid. I added a little bit of pink just to make him look a little bit more lifelike. Also went around the face in certain areas and added back a little bit more pink. You'll see that better once I remove the masking around his mouth. Right now I have some putty around his mouth because I had a reprime. So basically the mouth, I wasn't happy with the way the mouth looked. So I took some acetone, which is basically just nail polish remover. Took some acetone with a Q-tip, took all the paint off the mouth area very carefully, let it sit overnight. So today's the next day. I just went back in and hit him with the Vallejo surface primer. This gray color makes a great color for teeth if you're doing like just regular teeth, but being this is Joker, I do want to dirty them up just a little bit. So basically what happened the last time was the paint was getting a little bit too clumpy looking with the acrylic. So what I'm doing this time is I'm going around and doing everything in finer layers using ink. So this is the Vallejo game ink. I have this mixed in with a little bit of black by the, I believe this is Amsterdam. So I took a little black, a little bit of yellow, kind of got this greenish, brownish color, which is going on like that. So the next plan of action is I basically went around and traced the contours, the sculpt of the teeth, just to darken up those areas with the yellow. And I'm going to come back with some bone white. This is off-white, same thing, bone white, off-white. I'm going to come back and airbrush that over the teeth. This way we get a little bit of a smoother transition and try to put this on a little bit cleaner because, as mentioned, it was getting a little too clumpy, too many brush strokes, and the paint was just getting a little too thick, and I was losing the sculpt of the teeth to where you couldn't see the outline of the teeth anymore. So this is the next course of action. Went around with the ink, letting that dry for a second. I'm going to come back with the bone white and spray the bone white over the mouth. And yeah, I'm going to have to redo the gums again, but it is what it is. Wasn't happy with the results, so sometimes you got to start over. So that's where we're at this point in the project. All right, and here's how the mouth is looking after being painted. Came out really nice. I'm really happy with the results this time. Glad I went back a few times and repainted it. The first time the paint just went on too thick and the teeth were a little bit too brown. It wasn't complementing the sculpt. The second time the teeth were a little bit too white. So I actually ended up redoing the teeth 3 times. So this is the 3rd attempt. And I think I have the perfect mixture to where the teeth are a little bit yellowish. They look like they're rotted, but not too, not too much. At the same time, they're not too bright. Kind of alternates between, it's like a bone white on the actual teeth, and then around the gum line and certain areas of the teeth, I went in with a yellow ink, the game ink by Vallejo. Took some yellow ink and just went around to make it look like the teeth were rotted and had a little bit of plaque on them. The teeth still need to get gloss coated. Once I gloss coat them, it's going to really bring everything to life. Also, the eyes still need to get gloss coated. which will really make the eyes pop. But yeah, I really just wanted to take my time getting the teeth right because it is the Joker. That is what he is known for. He's known for his big evil grin, that smile. It's one of the first things that you see. So I'm glad I went back and fixed the areas around the mouth to make sure it was as perfect as I could possibly get it. Because like I mentioned, it's one of the first things about the character that you notice. It's what he's known for. So making sure that it looked as good as possible was very important on this project. But as far as the teeth go, again, it was bone white, and then I went in with some yellow inks just to keep everything not getting too, with acrylic, sometimes it can get a little thick. And I didn't want to lose the details of the sculpt, so the inks really helped keep things on the thinner side, so I didn't lose any details. As far as the gums go, the gums are looking a little bit more on the purple side than they do in real life. In real life, it's more of like a bubblegum pink, similar to that right there. So you have like a little bit of a bubblegum pink, and then some highlights over each tooth, to bring out the areas of the gums. The mouth, the lips was obviously done with red. So we got that nice Joker smile. And again, once it gets gloss coated, it's going to look 100 times better. But yeah, moving forward, we're going to start working on the shirt, the collar area. Looking at the renders, it's kind of like a coral to an orange color. So I'm going in with some Orange Fire by Vallejo's Game Color. I'm going to mix in some Squid Pink just to tone down the orange. This way we get more of like a coral color. Probably just go in by hand and brush that on and get this guy pretty much finished up. Once we finish the shirt, I might go in and still detail some areas around the face, anything that needs to be touched up. But for the most part, he's almost done. So let's get started on the shirt, and then I'll show you the final result. All right, so the collar is all finished up. He was clear coated all over the entire model using the Krylon Color Max Clear flat coat. That's my go-to anytime I need to clear coat something in between or towards the end of projects, depending on the finish. But basically at this point, I need to go in and give the eyes a little bit of a gloss shine as well as the teeth. And for that, we're going in with this gloss top coat by Createx airbrush colors. And it's a water-based top gloss coat. So we're going to apply that by brush onto the eyes and onto the teeth. And then we'll get to the final look. All right, so this can be airbrushed, but you could also brush on with a regular paintbrush, which we're going to do is don't need to airbrush it. It's just a small little area on the eyes and the teeth. So I'm going to pour a little bit out into my little metal dish here, and we're going to apply it by brush, let that dry for a few hours, and then we'll come back and take a look at it. Anytime you're applying these clear coats, you want to put it on in thin layers. You can go back and put it on in multiple coats, depending on the shine you want to go for. If you want it extra glossy, you can come back and give it an extra coat or two. Just let it dry for a little bit. Also, when applying clear coats to eyes, you don't want to go too crazy, otherwise it'll look like the model is crying. So you want to make sure you keep the clear coat just around the eye area and not come down too far under the eyelid. Otherwise it's going to look like he's having teardrops coming down his face. But yeah, basically the way this clear coat goes on, it goes on to where it looks like it's a little bit white. It goes on very cloudy looking. Kind of looks like a white paste, almost like an Elmer's glue. But no worries, if you put it on thin enough, it will dry clear. So don't be off-put that the color is more on the, as you can see right there, it's got a little bit of like a whitish tint to it, but it will dry clear. So I'm going a little bit heavier around the gum line because I want the gums to look a little bit more wet than the actual teeth. But when it comes to teeth and eyes, you can play around. Usually I go back and forth between a high gloss or a satin finish, depending on the model. So I'll let this dry. And if I feel like it's looking a little bit too shiny, I'll come back with a little bit of a satin. They make these clear coats in all different shines that you can brush on or airbrush. Come in satin, flat finish, matte, gloss. Okay, and here is our final look at the Joker. Thanks for watching today's video. If you enjoy these videos, please give the video a thumbs up. If you have any questions, feel free to drop a comment down below. If you're not already subscribed, please hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next project. Take care.